अथ योगानुशासनम् योगश्चित्तवृत्तिनिरोधः तदा द्रष्टुस्वरूपेऽवस्थानम् वृत्तिसारूप्यमितरत्र वृत्तयः पञ्चतयः क्लिष्टाः Okay. So, by the way, during the lunch, we got feedback from many of you, and everybody is just enjoying the discussions and all the, different contentions. That's a really lovely way to learn. So that's very nice, and I'm glad that you're all enjoying it. So that's good. Okay. So now, Stefan, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, some of you I know from the last retreat. I met Neema in August at the Bhagavad Gita course, the 10 essential verses or something. And since then some of us made a small group where we listen again to Neema's talks, and that's how I decided to come to this course as
well. Okay. So, the first two, now, test. What are the first two sutras? Does anybody want to just a little bit summarize what we saw, whether you agree with me or not? It's entirely up to you, but what we saw. Just go back to sutra and hopefully things will come back. Atha Yoga Anushasana, that's the first sutra. What did we see in that sutra? The meaning of that?
The goal.
Dara wants to say.
So in that one we saw that there's an end, a means and a preparation and an application.
Superb. So that means when he's saying, I'm going to start now about teaching you the traditional teaching of yoga, he has to tell you what he's going to be talking about. So what he said is, I'm going to tell you what the end is in yoga, what is the means to an end, how to prepare oneself, and what the application. So he's setting a stage for what these next 195 sutras, what is he going to talk about, right? So these are the 4 topics that he's going to talk about. Superb. Very good, Dara. Now, the next is the next.
Yoga Chitta Vritti
Nirodha. Wonderful. Okay, now what does that mean?
Without managing, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, you want to try? Please do. Yeah, then I say, no, please try, and then she will. Please, go ahead.
Managing the mind, we have all kinds of thoughts, and there are thoughts that are helping us to get to the goal and to the end, and there are thoughts that are not so helpful, and we try to shift them and manage them a little bit.
Super.
And it can take some lifetimes, I understand.
It may take lifetimes, but that's exactly what we are trying to do. Wonderful. Super. That's it? Exactly the same? Say it in your words. It's nice. Nice to hear.
It's about distinguishing between thoughts that serve you for recognizing the knowledge again, or the other thoughts that won't help you, that bring you away from the goal.
Superb. Excellent. So then that's what we call intelligent living, right? You don't, our teacher used to say, don't throw away baby with bathwater. You know this expression? You have this expression in Germany, right? So that you can't eliminate everything, eliminate the bathwater, keep the baby is very important, right? So this is how it is. Okay. Now, the next sutra, it's very beautiful. It says, Tada drashtuhu svarupe avasthanam. This is the third sutra. So it all has to connect, right? So now the thing is, if you are able to manage your thoughts, and if you're able to somehow, eliminate or at least understand or keep away from thoughts which are not serving you, and cultivate the thoughts that help you to this in your journey, then what will happen ultimately is tada. Tada is when you do that, drashtuhu. So tada is when you do that, when that condition is met, drashtuhu. Drashtuhu means the real nature of the seer. Nature, here in this case seer, but what does it actually mean? The real nature of self, right? Swarupe, that is, Swarupa is the true nature. Avasthanam. Avasthanam means you will be well established in your true nature. So when you use your thought processes wisely and eliminate all the unhealthy ones, you're able to see yourself in a clear light. Now, what the thing is, please understand this word avasthanam is a key word where it is what the person is well established, means what the word of reaching is not used. Do you see? When do you use the word reaching? Tell me. Suppose I say, I am, 1 minute, yeah? I am in Bonn now and I will reach Berlin. What does it mean? I'm away physically from Berlin, and by doing this act of either taking a train or taking a plane or taking, they drove from Berlin to Bonn yesterday. They arrived after 10 hours, Anya was saying. There was a big traffic jam, so 10 hours it took. So therefore, this is what we call a reaching goal. Reaching goal is you're now not there and then you will get there. That's called reaching. Right? So that means that if reaching was the goal, then it would be what? When you have thoughts, you are not what? In your true nature. And when you cease to have thoughts, then you will reach yourself. Do you understand? That shows that you are away from it. What is the word that Patanjali uses? That's when you are well established. What does it mean is what? That if you begin to think about this, you use your mind more intelligently, then what you will begin to see is your true nature, and that is something that the errors with which you are living, the vagueness with which you are living will go away. Do you see that? So that means here we are not trying to say that right now, please understand, you are small And when you do the practice of yoga, you will become big. What is the vision? You are what? The whole. What keeps you away from that wholeness is your ignorance. When you use your mind accurately, take out all the problematic ways of thinking and use it constructively, what you will see is that you are the whole. You will see the true nature of yourself. You have something to say?
No, it was just, I thought you asked a question. And
So
you should
please-
explain it, but you already did.
Oh, what?
So,
Okay, great. Right? So therefore, these verbs and what they are saying, they are very, very critical, because I'm also so happy because Yuta, just during the break, she told me, and many people say that this Nirodha is actually so often used as stop, whereas I'm so glad you did a good service. I didn't think about it because I just was using Vedanta meaning. But it's good to see the dictionary meaning, and actually she said the dictionary doesn't have the meaning of stopped. That's a very big thing, right? It has a restraint, and restraint doesn't have the meaning of stop. Restraint means you have to guide your thinking. That is the meaning of restraint. So now, what you need to then understand is, if you begin to use your faculty of thinking properly, you will discover the nature of I. Now, what you do need to know is, why are we assuming that we don't know the nature of I? Why should I even tell you that you don't know the nature of I, and by following the yoga practice, you will know the true nature of I? Why am I assuming that you don't know the nature of I?
Because we're here.
Exactly. At least you have a question, what is my nature? Wonderful. What gives rise to this doubt in you that what is your true nature? Tell me.
It's the experience of limitation all the time. You feel pain, you're not in control of anything. You can list is long.
Okay, let's a little bit, so we have to know what we mean by ignorance, right? So this list is long. Let's little bit look into this list, which is long. So we know why proper thinking is so important to move away from this and see this. So what is your long list? Can you help me with your long list?
Insecurity.
Insecurity. So you see yourself as insecure.
Fear of dying.
Superb. Mortality. Needy. Superb. Can you establish a little bit, what do you mean, the needy of what?
Of everything. I need objects to feel me good.
Okay, needy of objects,
Relationships.
relationships.
And rejection from things I don't like.
Okay, rejection of things, or you reject, or what exactly do you mean?
You are always looking for things you like, but you don't want to have things you don't like. So you always have the energy taking or pushing away.
Okay, this particular thing that he's talking about, we have a technical name for it,
Yes.
that your whole life is guided by what we call raga and dvesha. So raga is something that you like, so life is all about gaining what you like, and things that you don't like, and life is all about avoiding what you don't like. So that means you're constantly struggling with the world to get what you want and to avoid what you don't want. So there is always a struggle, because the world is too big and your capacity to manipulate everything according to your needs is very limited. So this is why, and this is what we call this little struggle. So here what we say with, we needy with reference to our likes and dislikes. Is it okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Anything else? Helplessness. Superb. And the helplessness also can be about so many, all these things, right? Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Need for recognition.
Great. Need for recognition. Right? So that means, please understand this. Anybody else? Wonderful. I'm really
Feeling incomplete.
feeling incomplete.
Separation.
Very good. Separation. Let's add that also. Separation. Right, all the, I think you guys can make photocopy because these are,
Yeah.
I think your collective knowledge is a lot more than what I can say. So I'm really happy that you're all coming up with your own terminology, your own understanding. This is really wonderful. So what did you say? Separatedness.
Yeah.
Separate. Being separate, right?
Yeah.
Separatedness.
Loneliness.
Wow. Loneliness,
Frustration, resignation.
frustration, resignation.
Long list.
Long list, becoming longer.
The body is not only mortal, it can become very ill.
So the
Fear of disease.
fear of disease.
Also constant change within us, our desires change, the body changes, all the changes all the time.
So dealing with changes. No. Stress
And pension.
and pension. Anything else? No.
Love. Stop related to
What?
and the need for love.
Need for love. Superb.
Forgot it.
Forgot it.
Just I waited for somebody would mention it, but
No.
No need. That's why we are.
So needy, yeah, and I think, you can say relationships, so this can actually, so I think this can
it's
become,
not romantic.
oh, okay.
Too rational.
So let's make it a little bit more romantic and say, oh, need for love. That sounds beautiful. Okay, great. Okay, now, this is a human mind. Aye, please, Monica. Need to fall asleep. Here we are talking about our, why do you need to know your true nature? Because you are stuck with all of this. Would you add need to sleep in this? So what Monica is talking about is something very important. What she's saying is this constant, we are stuck with all of this, you need a respite. If you don't sleep, why sleep is so important? Imagine while in waking, your mind is stuck with all of this. And suppose you have no respite at all, then what? You will go crazy. This is why people who don't have sleep, they go and see a psychologist, because it becomes so desperate to have a mind resolved for a while. So that means you are constantly searching for certain quietening of the mind from this constant voice, which is there, even if you don't externally show it to anybody. So that means there is a need for resolution. Very important. Okay. Yes.
This you can put all under the point of limitation of the body. For example, you need air to breathe, you need food, and all this is plus.
Yeah.
Yeah?
So
You are very aware that you are very limited.
okay. So that means this whole constant identification with the body, which constantly reminds you of your limitation and dependence on so many other things, right?
Yeah.
Limitation and dependence. Because as Yuta is saying, for your breath you depend upon the world, for the body to survive, for food you depend upon the world, for its water you depend upon the world. So you are constantly dependent. And what she said is, we are searching for freedom from dependency on other factors of the world. If your I is here, when will you be independent? Tell me. You will never be independent. That goal, it becomes unachievable. For your next breath, you depend upon the world. So therefore, very good. See, put all of this together and then see what makes sense, right? So that is very good. Okay, great. So now, now, can somebody remind me, what is this long list about? Why did we start this list? How do we feel about ourselves? Right? So, this is our self-image. Can I use the word self-image to replace how do I feel about myself? Self-image. Now, we saw that the end, whether we like it or not, everybody is searching for freedom. Do you understand that? Bring back everything. If you don't bring back again and again, you will not see what the whole text is talking about. The sutras they have a common theme. So therefore, if you are searching for freedom, which is centered on I, and if you are living with this self-image, what is a self-image? Bodily limitation, dependence, insecure, mortality, neediness from objects, relationships, helplessness, need for recognition, feeling incomplete, separatedness, lonely, frustration, resignation, completely governed by likes and dislikes, fear of disease, fear of dealing with changes, stress and tension, need for love, need for resolution. And you're stuck with this self-image. When will this freedom come?
When this goes.
Wonderful, right? As simple as that, when this goes. So, either you can think, all this will go when I stop thinking. That's one possibility. Or you can say, hey, through my thinking faculty, maybe I can figure out what my true nature is, and maybe I will find myself already free from all these loads that I'm carrying. So, the resolution that Monica was talking about, which is freeing yourself from thoughts, as I told you, it happens every night. Every night you have no thoughts, and when you wake up, what happens? You are back to square one. Everything re-emerges. Have you solved anything fundamentally? So that means maybe the other option of re-looking at my nature, and maybe I will find myself already free from all these burdens that I'm carrying within myself. My self-image is based on certain ignorance about my true nature. So if I'm a little clever, and if I use my mind to remove the ignorance, maybe I will find myself already free from all of this. That is what we call what? Swarupe avasthanam. Through using the mind intelligently, you will figure out what is your true nature, and you will be well established in your true nature. Yes?
Vedanta tells us to practice yoga and not using our thinking abilities to free ourselves.
Listen, we are right now, see, one thing you need to do, you already have ideas of what Patanjali is saying, and you want to put these, we are trying to understand sutras. When you are trying to understand sutra, you have to see what each word means, right? And what you have to see is what he is trying to tell you, right? Otherwise, what will happen is, we can't come out of our own preconceived notions. Suppose you go to a math class and somebody is teaching you a certain equation, but you have your own idea of what is what, and you refuse to listen to that equation. You just continue with your own ideas. Will you get to this thing? So we are trying to understand more objectively what Patanjali is talking about. Because he is saying this, we need to figure out what it means. Right? He is saying tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam. That is his words. What you are imputing to his words is something which is maybe what you think. Wonderful. I don't say that it's not. We are trying to see a little bit more as to, is that what he's saying, or is he saying something a little bit different, and why? Right? So that means, please see, I'm not using anything which is other than the sutras. Even Nirodha, I'm not using anything which is within his sutras. So therefore, let's try to get in and see what he's saying, rather than continue to think what we are thinking and impute it to Patanjali. Right? So therefore, what you need to understand is, now, avasthanam, as I keep telling you, he's not using a word of reaching. Reaching is something which is, you are not there, and then you have to do something to free yourself from all this. The verb reaching, if he had said, then you would have to say, when you eliminate all these thoughts, you will reach what? Your true nature. He says, when you eliminate the unuseful thoughts and use your thinking intelligently, you will be well established in your true nature, and your true nature happens to be free from all of this. Yeah? Actually, it's a very good news. Why is it a good news? Tell me. You are already what you want to be. Can there be a better news than that? So that means now the whole process becomes what? Using your thinking faculty intelligently to see your true nature. So use this thinking what? Constructively. This is called what? Constructive use of your thinking. Now, how do you use your thinking constructively? And that is, do this little viveka. What is this viveka? Discrimination between what is Atma and what is Anatma. What is I and what is not I. Definition. Whatever is something which I can see, which comes and goes, what is something which is an object or the subject? Tell me. Object. Why is it an object?
This is not the subject, it's from outside of me.
Excellent. So that means what happens is the object, before it comes, I am there. Before I know it, I am there. While I am knowing an object, I am still there. After the object goes, I am still there. That means one thing comes and goes, the other one is what? Huh? It stays. Superb. Right? Now, if you use this definition of subject and object, now this is an important part, so I have to use red pen. Subject and object. Okay. In Sanskrit, this is what he called drashtuhu swarupa. Drashta. Drashta means the seer. And this is what? Drishya in Sanskrit. Drishya is that which is seen by me. And this is the seer, the nature. But he is not talking about seer. Please look at his words. Drashtuhu swarupa. He is saying the true nature of the seer. Each word is important. Right? He is not talking about, oh, you are the seer. He is not saying that. He is saying the true nature of drashtu. So, swarupa. Okay? So that requires a little bit of discrimination. Now, what we have to do is, using this definition that you have given, we will start putting things in either here and here. We have to do it together. Mountain. Object. Superb. Tree. Object. Okay, why is it and why? Nobody had to think much to put it in an object category. Why did you not have to think too much when you put it in object category? It meets the condition. What is the condition that it meets?
I can touch it.
Exactly. It's something which I see, so it's other than me, right? So this is the thing that we see. Okay. Mountain, tree, rocks, object. Okay. Suppose I tell you body.
Object.
What?
Because I'm aware of my body. So
Okay.
there's something between me and my body.
Okay. So that means he's right, because suppose I ask you, what did you look like a teenager?
Not like this.
She can tell, right? So that means from the teenage years to now, what? Not only she is able to observe the changes that are taking place, but he himself is able to observe. Whether he likes it or not, he is able to observe, right? So that means whatever is an object, can one thing be simultaneously an object and a subject? No, right? So that means just as you observe everything else, you also observe your body and the changing condition of the body. So people say, what, before the lunch, I was aware of my hunger, and now I'm aware of what, my sleepiness, because I've eaten a lot, right? So that means the changing conditions of the body are constantly known to you, and they keep changing. So that means just as the mountain, tree, rock is in object category, the body also belongs to what? Object category. And then let's first finish this inquiry. What about if I say mind? Which category? Wow, you're all enlightened. So why does it fall in object category? Tell me. Yeah.
You can observe.
Because it also, it's just the experience. Now it's changing.
It's
So
changing.
it's not, manifest.
Superb. So what she's saying, yeah, please.
You can observe your thoughts.
Superb. Right? So that means you can observe, just as you can observe the tree, you can observe the mountains, you can observe the clouds, you also can observe your thoughts, your changing thoughts, right? So therefore, you are all very clever, because now the mind is also in the object category.
And it's inside the body.
Not only the mind. See, we are all becoming fast, very bright and very wise. See, all the truths are all kind of, it's amazing. This collective intelligence it is amazing. I don't need to teach. All the answers are coming from you. So that means what she says is like, it's a little bit intricate, because his mind is not hanging in the air. It's actually what? It's almost inside, it's inside the body. Correct? Right? So now, if this really was drishta, now what happens is, if you're all very clear, then you have to also then answer one more question. If all this is object, what is subject?
Other than object.
That's true. It's other than object, but what is it? Subject, you, I.
Never changing.
Wonderful. Wow. Never changing. True. Never changing subject.
That what I call me.
That is what you call I. And what is its true nature? What is this non-changing reality about myself?
It's self-evident.
Wow, everybody has big names. Okay. So what?
My soul?
Okay, well. Okay, let's, right now, what is it about me which is not changing, while because of which, please understand, I'm able to see all these things which are changing.
The observation. I can observe.
Yeah, see, observation, let's go little bit deeper. What she's saying is, I'm the observer. Now tell me, the observation, does it require mind or not? It requires mind, right? Suppose I ask you to see, observe the tree, right? You need the mind, is it? Right? So this is why, see, the word observer that you are talking about is drishta. What Patanjali says is drashtu swarupa. It's not exactly the observer, because the observer is also one of the modes of mind.
The awareness or consciousness which is aware of all these objects.
Superb. That is what Sita Devi also said, but she has listened to me earlier, so I didn't. No, wonderful. Great. So that means this non-changing reality about me is consciousness, or you can call awareness. In Sanskrit, we call it Chit Swarupa, Satchidanandatma, or what you have said, right? So that means, now, look at this. It's very interesting, right? Let's go back here, and our mistake will be glaring in front of us. Your self-image, non-changing reality, changing. Each of these notions that you have about yourself, insecure. In order to feel insecure, what do you need? Mind. Superb. So you can know that right now, this situation makes me feel insecure. Right? So you are stuck. Look at this. You are stuck with, you have loaded your subject with all this long list, which never ended, it seemed as though. But all this non-ending list, you yourself figured out. I didn't have to do much. I only facilitated the inquiry, and I just created two categories, and I gave you definition, and I asked you to put one thing and the other, and you yourself put it. And when you put it, what you discover is something which is very, very amazing, because the whole self-image problem that you had, which included all the long list of insecurity and mortality and separatedness and loneliness, frustration, fear of disease, stress, each one of this belongs to where? Object. And it is changing. One day you are insecure, then next day you are secure. You feel secure. One day you feel lonely, your friend calls you and you feel good again. All these different things that you have attributed to drishta, what if you begin to use your thinking intelligently, you will discover that these are all attributes, different thoughts of what? The mind. And what is the relationship between the mind and this unchanging? See, suppose this awareness, you yourself said it is not changing. This insecurity and all is changing or not? Each thought, fears, each one of it is changing. Even if while being awake, right, you are stuck with it, when you go to sleep, you are free from it, at least for that time. So therefore, all of these are attributes of mind. So that, now, what is this problem of ignorance that we are talking about? Tell me.
We don't know who we are.
Exactly. We live with an identity which is totally connected to what? The state of your body and mind, and we think these conditions belong to drishta, subject. This is the nature of confusion in self-identity that we live with. It's an identity, it's a wrong identity based on ignorance of what is I, the subject, and what is object, which is something that I'm able to see. Now, let's see, this body is changing and the mind is going through many different thoughts of, let's put insecurity, fears, anger, sadness, tension, all of these. While these are changing, what is happening to this awareness and consciousness? Does it for that time being take on these attributes? While it is there in the mind, Does it take on these attributes?
Untouched.
Untouched. Why? What is the logic? Tell me.
Never changing.
Okay, so that is, it becomes a little bit of a circular logic. First you say it's not changing and therefore it doesn't take on any attributes. But let's...
It would keep, if you take on an attribute, you keep the attribute.
Excellent. Shantala has the right logic. Absolutely right. See, you need to not only give right answers, you also need to arrive at the right logic. Otherwise, I may be lenient to you as a student and I said, yeah, that's fine. Anybody else who listens to you will find fault in your logic. If you don't know, if you have the right answer, but if you don't have the right logic, that is problem. What Shantala says is...
Ma'am, could you please repeat Shantala's answer?
Yeah, so I was going to, but Shantala, why don't you little bit explain it? It's good. Good that I get a break. Come on, Shantala, explain.
Well, if the awareness kept any of the attributes, I mean, if it takes on any attribute, if awareness took on any attribute, it would have to keep the attribute, because that's the definition of taking on an attribute. So it's like in another session, Neema used this example of a clear glass, and she waves a different colored glass behind it. The glass, although clear, looks like it's taking on a color.
Shantala, why don't you do it? Come on. It's wonderful. Let her do it. Give the clear bottle.
Yeah. In fact, you use this jar.
Yeah, so you use this clear.
So Neema did this. She had a clear glass in front of her and she waved a blue cup behind it. And it appears as if the clear bottle is taking on the color of blue, but actually it's not. It just seems that way. And then if you wave a different colored vessel behind it, it seems to take on that color, but actually it's not. And if it was indeed taking on the color, then you would see it even when it wasn't held behind it. Or if it was taking on the blue color, when we waved the pink, it would show a different color. So that's one way to explain how the awareness is not taking on attributes of the different thoughts going by.
Superb. Did you understand what she's saying? Very good, Shantala. All the correct logic. See, what she is saying is, now let me re-say it, but it's absolutely right. What the logic here is that it is true that, why all of us make this mistake and load our eye with all kinds of things. We are not stupid, right? I mean, we are not, so that means for the time being, it seems to us as though the strength of that emotion is so strong, suppose a fear, that what happens is, there is no distinction that I make between what? The I and the fear. I and fear become one. That's why we say, I have so much fear. Right? And what she's saying, why does it appear like that, is she showed through this glass demonstration. This glass stands for non-changing awareness. And the fear is equivalent to what? That blue cup she showed you. So what happens is, while that blue cup is there, what happens is, for us, the glass seems to appear as blue. Do you see that? What is the reality? The cup is blue. Do you understand? So that means, for that time being, while that thought is existing, it seems to us as though the I is what? Of the nature of the thought. But what she's saying is, if that was really the case, if that was the nature of I, and if I really became sad, you will never be able to give up sadness. Why? Because you have this I is still there, and anything that you have thought of, you will take on the attribute of that passing thought, and you will be stuck with it forever. So what she is saying is, for that time being, what it seems like glass is blue. For that time being, it seems like what the glass is pink. For that time being, it seems like the glass is red. But in reality, the glass is what? Clear. If the glass is clear, why does it give that appearance? You can say, if the glass is clear, why? Why? Because there is a certain proximity. Right? If that proximity was not there, we will not make the mistake. But because of the proximity, it fools us. Now, how do we get out of this being fooled and come to know this reality that the glass is already free? Right? In the case of glass, it's kind of easy because I can remove everything. But in case of body and mind, I can't just say, let me remove my body and mind and just see this pure consciousness. Forget it. Please.
You have to change the perspective.
Superb. So that means the teaching will make you see through logic that I used, that she used, that if suppose there is a thought of insecurity and it got stuck to this awareness, what will happen is awareness forever will be stuck with this thought of insecurity. And if it got really stuck and it became its own nature, you can't do anything to remove it. Because it got stuck, that became your nature. Then what will happen is, even if there is what let's say called happiness thought, when happiness thought comes, what happens is what? Insecurity is stuck because that has become your nature. And happiness also is superimposed on insecurity. Do you see the confusion? Do you see the confusion? Every thought that passes your mind will get stuck to you. Right now, you will be stuck with what? Thousands and thousands and millions of different things that you have thought about. And if that, you can say, yeah, that's true, this is who I am. Okay, wonderful. Let me ask you one question. What did you think about yesterday at 10 p.m.? Because it's all there with you, it's stuck with you. You don't know. Oh, okay, maybe that's a little far. Just tell me today 10:05 a.m. What did you think about? Slept in the class. Wonderful. 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Okay. So that means what happens is, right? Don't worry. What I want to show you is, if these passing thoughts really got stuck to you, you will be stuck with each and every one of them. And if you're claiming that you're stuck with all of them, then I would say reproduce each one of them, and you're not able to do it. Logic, that is what we call, use your thinking intelligently to help yourself. Go ahead.
I do not understand the point about that something is stuck. Why is it stuck?
If it was, see, the passing thought, what we are trying to see is, we are making this non-changing awareness, right? And then we are saying the mind, which is changing, right, has all these things. Now, when we ask, what I asked you, yourself, you want to know, why do you want to know yourself? Because you are stuck with this identity. So now I'm making you see whether this is your identity or it is the mind's changing thoughts. And if they are minds changing thoughts, do they get stuck to your identity or not? That is what we are seeing. Do you see that? Do you see the purpose? Because when you are stuck with this identity, you are what? I have fear, I have. So that means what you're doing is the attributes of mind, you are what? Attributing to I. And I'm making you see it's not the case. Yeah? Because if it was the case, what will happen is you will be stuck with it. Because if you become sad, then that becomes your intrinsic nature. You have taken on this attribute, it doesn't go away. What we see is whatever the changing thought is, right, it never affects the non-changing awareness. So that means if you really understand this reality, you will, what will happen, all these things that you were suffering from, all these problems, what will happen? Tell me. If you understood.
I know it's not released, it's just emotions or whatever.
You will know that it is not you. These are what? Changing states of mind. Is it? Now look at this. Big difference. Is it that you are stuck with all of this and you have to clean it up? No. But first, before you even deal with it, you have to find that I am free from it. These are all the things which are what we call things which are the patterns of thinking of the mind. So, chitta vritti nirodha, what it says is, these are the patterns of thinking which make you not see your true nature. So, when it says what chitta vritti nirodha, what Patanjali says is, if you take care of all these things, right, with which you are stuck, and not only you are stuck, but your self-identity is stuck with all of this, when you take care of this, you will begin to see your true nature accurately, which is already free from all these changing attributes. Do you see that? This is what we say when you have organized, when you use your thinking faculty intelligently, you will discover that I am already what? Free, a non-changing reality, consciousness, awareness, which doesn't undergo any change. Yeah.
Somehow it's interesting when you realize that your motivation for acting, for doing something in your job or whatever, partnership or whatever, and when you realize that the motivation is not like you had before, it's totally a switch, because normally our motivation is to feel complete or to get attention or whatever. Yeah? But there's no need for it anymore when we realize who we are.
Okay.
So
now, wonderful. In a way it is true, but the Patanjali is talking about a very interesting thing, right? He's talking about what? The end. And what is the end? If here it seems that freedom end, suppose that freedom end doesn't seem too far when we know this reality, right? Because I'm never changing, I'm consciousness, awareness, which is actually not subject to any of these limitations. Right? Now, but you can't say, what Patanjali also says is that in order to get there, there is preparedness. You can't pretend, oh, I know it now, because I have heard it once. I went to some lady who taught this little chart she did, and she made me do this little exercise of subject and object, and I myself figured out that everything belongs to object, and my subject is non-changing, so now I'm enlightened. You can't say that. No. Wonderful. Because the minute you go out there, you will start reloading yourself with hundreds of things. Right?
And we are educated, we are adapted to think the subject is mind, body, and all these sort of things.
Exactly. So that means this avidya, that ignorance that we have, is not just I teach you 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 and now you know it. It is deep rooted. So even if I show you very clearly and it seems that you understand pretty clearly and you don't have any logic to contradict what I'm saying, the whole amazing thing is still it's not clear. That is amazing. So that's why, while it is not clear, you can't pretend that it is clear. This is why Patanjali also says to really be well established in your true nature, you also need preparedness. That is the reason for preparedness. Otherwise, this will do the job. It's over. For your mind to really assimilate this knowledge and to live from it and apply, right? Preparedness and application are so important. Without which we can pretend that the knowledge is complete, but it's not. This is why the first sutra establishes the whole scope of Patanjali Sutras. The knowledge is only complete when all 4 are taken care of. Otherwise, it's incomplete. So don't start flying with this idea, oh, I went to this weekend workshop and now I'm consciousness and I'm unaffected by anything, right? So that is true. It's a fact which needs to be understood, but there are 2 things, according to Patanjali, which need to happen for it to really become a knowledge in which you are well rooted, well established. 2 things need to happen, and that is what the preparedness of the mind to hold this big reality, it has to be there. Can a mind, now look at this, a mind that you have, right, can it, on one hand, have fears, really totally caught by the fears, and at the same time understand I'm free?
No, it's impossible.
Exactly.
So any situation in which you feel fear is like a proof that you're not really established on that knowledge.
Exactly.
So any daily situation where you feel uncomfortable or fear comes up or shows up is like an indicator.
Yeah, okay. Very true, excellent, but I don't want to take it to the 100%, but you are absolutely right. So that means, suppose you are completely caught in deep fears. What does it mean? Suppose I tell you, right, what's going to happen 5 years from now, right? So what is a possibility? Some good things can happen, some maybe not so good things can happen, and some neutral things can happen, but your mind only thinks of what? The worst case scenario. That is what we call a pattern of mind. So what, Tobia, what I want to change slightly in what you are saying is, it's not every thought, but a certain deeper orientation. Passing thought is a passing thought, right? So suppose when I'm going at night and I see some car, I'm crossing the road and I see the car going very fast, which I did not see, it will create fear in me. And that's the function of the mind. Doesn't mean that you're not wise. Do you see?
Yeah, it's instinct.
It's an instinct. And as long as you understand that it's an instinct and it belongs to the mind, I'm never touched. It's still you're well established in knowledge. But suppose I create a scenario for me in 5 years from now and I only see a very gloomy picture, full of fear of what will happen to me and what will be the case, and I'll be alone and I'll be lonely and nobody will be there to look after me. This is what we call a deep orientation problem, which is very much connected to your self-identity of loneliness. So your mind cannot on one hand feel this whole fears and loneliness, and at the same time you cannot claim that I understand that I am free. So this is what Patanjali is saying. In order for really for you to be well established in this knowledge, you need, what is the preparedness? You need to look after this first. If you have not dealt with it, then what? This will not happen. Do you understand? Even if it is the mind, right now we are all caught, whether you like it or not, in our identity with the mind. You can't pretend that you are not mind. So therefore, this is what, so when that happens, the drashtuhu swarupa, which is consciousness, awareness, is understood. Now, what you also need to understand is one more thing about this consciousness or awareness. This is also a very big, it's a very big paradigm shift, which leads to that freedom. So therefore, now suppose I ask you, you tell me that you are not the body and not the mind, because it is object, you are this never-changing consciousness. Sita Devi says the same thing, I am not this body and this mind, I am the consciousness. Suppose she says the same thing, that I am not this, my body and my mind, I am the awareness. Now, the question is, how many awarenesses are there? One. You all have all the answers. So, now my job is to make you see, why are you arriving? It's true that there is only one. How did you arrive at that? Why did you arrive at that? It's true, if the answer is right.
Because it's never changing.
Wonderful. So, yeah, I mean, it's true. But where is it?
No, it must be the same forever.
Because there are not so many self, it's only one self.
Yeah.
Separated.
Yes. So what is separated is what? The bodies are
The
separated,
body and the
right?
mind, the thinking is separated,
Yeah.
but not self.
Okay. So that means a non-changing. So that means, very good. Actually, she has the right answer, but she, obviously we don't know how to put it logically, the answers, but it's a true answer. So actually, things which are non-changing, can they have attributes?
No.
They cannot have attributes. So that means when I see a difference between you and me, where is the difference? Where is the difference? In the body. And the body belongs to object, right? Which is changing. Now I can say my body is different from his body because mine is a female body, his is a male body. He is a European, I'm an Indian. He speaks Dutch, I speak Hindi, right? So these are all the different attributes which distinguish me from him. Which are the attributes? My body is a female body, his body is a male body. He looks white, I look brown, right? So these are all the attributes. There are two different attributes. This is why there are what? Two and more. Do you understand? Then you are yet another person because yes, you are fair, but you are a female body, so you are not him, right? So this is how the attributes are the ones through which you can say there are many. Yes? Now, what we just saw is that the consciousness doesn't take on the attributes of changing thoughts and changing body. So this awareness is what? Attribute free. Do you understand that? An attribute when something is attribute free, the two can only be established by what? Two different attributes. Do you get that? So therefore, there is no, if you think that Atma is two, awareness is two, you have to answer this question. If you think there are two awarenesses, what distinguishes your awareness from my awareness? What is the attribute that your awareness has, which is not the attribute of my awareness? You will find every attribute belongs only to objects. Superb. Superb. Every attribute belongs only to objects. You guys, you know everything. What am I doing here? Only making you see what you know. Okay. So now, so that means the object world, please understand, has hundreds of different attributes. And when we open our eyes, we only see objects. So what do we conclude? What? I am this body and mind, and I have this attributes, and everybody else has different attributes from me. So we live with ignorance. And when we do that, we become what? One small little entity in this vast universe, which is what? Planets, galaxies, what? Huge. And that small person is always struggling for freedom and fulfillment. Yes.
Neema, one question.
Yes.
I think it may be stupid, but consciousness cannot say I'm not the body. It's not possible. Consciousness is never changing, so it can also not express itself.
Now, who's talking? This is a good question. Narayana is saying, is I, the non-changing consciousness, is talking now? Who's talking? Please understand, where is the ignorance? Is the ignorance in the consciousness, or ignorance is at the level of mind? Mind. So that means the awareness is never affected when mind has ignorance. So therefore, the consciousness never says I'm bound or I'm free. Consciousness doesn't talk. Right? Very good. So what talks is this body with this mind, and what is the place where ignorance is? What is the locus of ignorance? Mind. So that means the mind is an instrument, but it starts thinking that it is I. So where does the ignorance have to go? The ignorance has to go where? Exactly. So this is why you need the mind to solve the problem of ignorance. Every ignorance can exist only in the mind, and mind has to solve the problem of ignorance. So this is why it requires prepared mind. If you have a confused mind, it cannot solve this problem. This is why Patanjali says a restrained mind, which is it's a discerning mind, will be able to solve the problems. And a discerning mind is the mind which has taken care of all of this. A mind which is filled with all of this will never get to this reality.
And where do you localize unconsciousness?
Okay, super.
If I follow your logic,
yes,
I would put it into the mind. But
excellent.
By the expression, it's so related with the consciousness. And yes, it's something like uncontrolled consciousness.
Uncontrolled. But that's why we call the, that question is a very important question. In order to answer that, we are going to a little bit focus on this mind and see this mind which we use loosely, what it actually means. Very good. That's a good question. Next page. Okay, mind. This mind, which seems like all the changing thoughts, which gives us all these different self-images of ourselves that we just saw, itself is not just, one thought after the other just floating like that. Itself works in a very intelligent manner, right? So it has what we call, you can think about others too, but the tradition shows 4 different modes of thinking, functions. 4 different modes of thinking. The first one is what we call emotions. Emoting mind in Sanskrit, now this is confusing in Belgium, this is called manas. So what it means is, an external stimuli comes, and then what, there is what the senses report to the mind, and as I just explained to you, amygdala will make some sense of it, and if you're really intelligent, you'll use your prefrontal cortex to make sure that the first messages that the mind receives are more accurate. And suppose they are not more accurate, you're able to change them, right? Based on your understanding. So that is what we call the first reaction, or it not only produces an impression, along with the impression comes the emotions. So that is why, Tobiah, the mind will do this instantaneously, give you fear, and that's not bad. Because sometimes it will help you survive, right? If you're crossing the road and you don't see the car, it should give you fear. If you lose fear, you've lost your rationality. Right? So this is what we call the emotive mind, emotional mind. So that means the seat of emotion. The other one is what we call cognitive mind, which is more related to the prefrontal cortex function that I talked about. In Sanskrit, it is called buddhi. What it means is, suppose you go to school and you begin to learn things. Even right now, what am I doing when I'm teaching you discerning, see the difference between Atma and Anatma and all that? Which part of the mind you're using? Hopefully, which one? You are using your prefrontal cortex, superb, to understand things differently than what you are using. So that is what we call cognitive mind. Then you have something called memory. What is memory? The memory is which allows you to speak right now. When did you learn how to speak? Long ago. How is it that your mind is able to remember all these different words and able to reproduce the right word to convey right things at the right time? How? Which function of the mind are you using? You're extracting from your memory. You have stored in your memory hundreds of words. You are extracting certain words from your memory to what? And construct a sentence to convey what you mean. We use our memory all the time. What may seem to you like a non-event, right? Suppose I'm drinking this water. Is there a memory function that I'm using?
Yeah.
Yes. Which one?
That it's safe to drink what?
To drink.
How to drink.
How to drink.
There are people, please, ask doctors, and it's true that the people who have severe cases of Alzheimer, they forget how to gulp water. And it becomes a problem. Somebody said that this person who's facing this problem of Alzheimer, she is healthy, but she may die of choking. Why will she die of choking? Because she has forgotten how to pass the food from this what we call, what is this called? There is a technical name for that.
The esophagus.
Yeah, so just speak loudly. What is it called?
The esophagus.
Esophagus. Okay, she's technical.
No one word.
So that means there also, see, simplest of the simple thing. If you have fracture, right? The muscle, the physiotherapist told me, your muscle has lost memory of how to flex it. You have to redevelop that memory. It's incredible. You don't even think about how we use these functions all the time. And stopping of mind, what would it mean? Think about it. All these functions will go to sleep. So that means this is what we call memory, is what we call conscious memory. Then your question, and that is what, in addition to this conscious memory, we call what? We have unconscious memory. Certain impressions from our childhood we carry within ourselves, and that interferes with how we view the world, how we view ourselves, the decisions that we make. We saw yesterday Mahabharata. I really enjoyed how everybody figured out. It was just incredible. I never expected it to be such an amazing class, because just as today you are answering all the questions, there also they answered all the questions. It was just beautiful of how different people feel and how they end up acting as a result of how they feel, and what are the effects that you see in this world of those actions. It is just brilliant. So therefore, what we call, so many things were answered through what these unconscious processes. Why somebody is doing like that? Why is somebody interpreting the situations like that? Why is this person deciding to act like that? A lot of it is conscious and buddhi. Sometimes your unconscious gets mixed up. Now, the fourth function in this, now this is called chittam in Sanskrit. Now this is different from sat and chit. Please understand. Here chit that we are talking about is a non-changing consciousness awareness. Here when I am talking about memory, conscious and unconscious, it's a slightly different word. We call it chitta. Okay? Now, the fourth function of the mind is called ahankara. This ahankara, unfortunately, in a common parlance, it is used as ego, right? And ego has what kind of connotation? Negative connotation, right? So it is almost like, oh, she has a big ego, so that means, oh, she's... So it's used in the sense of pride, but in this case, it is not at all used in the, it doesn't have a negative connotation. It refers to one of the functions of the mind. And that is what? Aham is I, and kara is sense. It gives you, there is a sense of I. What does it mean? That suppose an external event creates an emotion of, let's say, sad. This function of the mind gives you a message, I am sad. Even though this sadness is a passing thought. Suppose when you're feeling sad, your friend calls you and you're happy again, this sadness has gone and happiness has come. This function of the mind will give you, I am happy. So that means the changing emotions which are taking place, they all get related to I, ahankara. It makes you feel as though this is all happening to I.
So that's where identification takes place?
This is how the identification takes place. Exactly. Through this, exactly. Now, suppose not only this, but also buddhi. Suppose you go to school, right, and you are able to understand fast and you are able to learn quickly. then not only you say that I have a strong cognitive, you don't say my mind, the function of my mind, which is its cognitive capacity, is strong. You don't say that. What do you say? I am intelligent. Right? So that means this function of the mind, which is strong, ahankara converts it into a message that is what? I am intelligent. So that means this I sense is what is connected not only with your mind, it is also connected with your buddhi, and it is also connected with your memory, and the memory is what? Conscious memory. So suppose I ask you, where did you live 10 years ago? What are you doing? You're extracting from your memory. You're thinking. And you're extracting from your memory where you lived 10 years ago. Right? You're not in the present. You're trying to go to the past using your memory. Right? So that means what? You say, suppose you say I lived in Germany 10 years ago. What you're doing is you are extracting from your conscious memory, but you are saying I lived in Germany. So even your I gets connected. Do you see a common thread? These are constantly changing. This is also changing, but one thing remains common, and that is what? I am, I am, I am, I am, I am. So this becomes the basis of your self-image. I am tired, I am sad, I am jealous, I am restless, I am this, and this is also changing all the time. So therefore, this is what we say, it gets connected with what? Conscious functions. It also gets connected with the unconscious function. Suppose as child you felt not loved. Right now, you will with different people that you are relating, you will create one message, I am not loved. Where is this coming from? Unconscious memory. So that means your whole self-image is based on what? All these different functions of the mind. There is one place where they all get converted to I am. And this is the identity with which we live. Now, what is this sutra is saying is what? Is this drashtuhu swarupaha? This is the identity with which we live. Is this my true nature? No. So I have to use my thinking faculty to help myself, to take my self-identity away from this I sense to my true nature. That requires what? Using of your thinking faculty in an intelligent manner. So therefore, it's not Narayan, it's not awareness which is telling you I'm tired and all that. It is which function of the mind? Who is telling you I'm tired and I'm now not free? Who is telling you? Tell me. All this for you, and you're not listening to me. Wonderful. Okay, thank God.
This is the problem, ahamkara.
Ahamkara. Wonderful. So that means this ahamkara is giving you all these different messages, and it rules, right? Until the time that you ask yourself the question, is it really me? Yes.
Sat Swarupa I am the same as ahamkara I am and without attributes?
Sorry?
Is Sat Swarupa I am the same as ahamkara without I am without attributes? Or is it different?
Can you help me to understand your question a little bit better?
So Sat Swarupa says I am.
Okay.
And ahamkara says I am.
Okay. Yeah. Super. Okay. So when you say I am something, then that is a thought. So that means one thought it will give you, the next minute it will give you some other thought. What we are talking about, the I am, which is the Sat Swarupa, which is what, because of whose presence these changing thoughts, the subject matter of which is I am, is known to you. So it's different. Because that real nature of I doesn't declare itself I am. The only entity which can declare I am is what? Mind. Ahankara, the mind. You see what I mean? So that means using the mind, now see, the mind is caught in this framework. It operates like this and it believes this to be I. Using the same mind, right? I have to tell you, this is not what you are, you're that. I have to use, I can't teach you. The ignorance cannot go without you using your mind. The same mind which is confused has to undo confusion. Right? That's why it requires a sharp mind. So, to answer your question, this real I am never says I am. Right? It's because of which different I ams that we know are known, that we attribute is known. Is it clear? More or less. Okay. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I think you said before that ignorance is happening in the mind.
Yes.
It has to be removed.
Yes.
From the mind.
Yes.
But if you say that, it seems that if you remove ignorance from the mind, then the mind will be able to see the true nature of the self. But that can't be true because the mind is the object and the object cannot see the subject.
Super.
So how
Excellent question. Did you hear her question? Excellent question. Say it, okay, what did she ask? Excellent question. Okay, what did she ask?
I have had a same thought.
Yes.
It's a paradox.
Yeah, it's a paradox.
And I will go further. Because when you say the real self is free, you give the self attribute.
Sorry?
When you say the real self is free, you give the self an attribute.
In fact, the attribute free is not an attribute as such.
Some of the mind gives an attribute.
What?
You say
Yeah.
the real self is free.
Yeah.
Is freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. See,
And
exactly.
it's
So
free
the
from
word
attributes.
freedom. So it's free from.
And you give an attribute. It's a paradox.
When I say free from attributes, see what has happened is, see, you have to understand with reference to the mind. So your I is stuck with all of this. Everybody's mind is stuck with all of this. So I have to use some language to make you take you to Atma. I can't not use any language. So I am constrained to use the language that is understood.
And the language. And the language is an organ of the mind, not of the self.
See, what you need to understand is that the mind that the human being is given is able to know. Yes. Either it can know things of the world or it can know what true nature of oneself. That is why we call it an advanced mind. That is why Manusya Janma, the birth as a human being, is considered to be a privileged birth.
And is this the answer to Alex's question, why the object, the mind, can realize the subject? Is this the answer?
So, no, it's not the answer. No. See, what is there is whether you see it or not, whether you recognize it or not, what clear glass is already there. If the mind has to produce the clear glass, it will never happen. But this clear glass is there, it doesn't get affected by whatever the mind thinks, but you're not able to see it, so therefore you're caught in a wrong identity. Now, the mind which is caught in the same identity itself cannot get out of it. That's why you need a teaching. You need an external teacher to make you see certain facts which you don't see.
Who's you're referring to?
Sorry? The
To
person
make
who's
you
confused.
see the person?
Yeah, the person, right? The person who's stuck. Now, please don't forget, where did we start with? See, we all pretend as though we are here, but actually you have to remember that we are actually right now here. So don't pretend that you are there. This is the biggest problem in Vedanta, because you start pretending as though you are this non-changing awareness, but actually what you are trying to do is, you're here, you're caught in this paradigm. And who is caught in this paradigm?
The person.
Who's this person?
Not me.
The mind.
Exactly. The mind is caught in this paradigm. And why is the mind caught in this paradigm? Because one function of the mind attributes everything that is going on to I. Do you see that?
This is what we call superimposition.
This is what we call superimposition.
It just seems, it looks
It
like.
seems like that. Absolutely. It seems like that. So now the mind cannot get itself out of this superimposition. It's impossible. That's why you need an external teacher. This is why we are studying Patanjali. As I just told you, please keep all the sutras. What it is showing is what? The end that I have, which I am not able to get on my own. Why? Because I am caught in my own paradigm. This Patanjali Sutras are meant to show you something about your true nature which otherwise is not known to you. But how will you understand the true nature? The only instrument through which you can understand your true nature is what? Mind. So the mind is where the confusion is, and the mind is where what? The confusion has to go. If the mind has to produce this reality of this awareness which is limitless, it will never be able to produce it. The good news is that this awareness is already there, because of which you are able to see the mind. So now I am using the teaching to make you see this reality which is otherwise not available to you.
But at some point I have to let go of the mind as well, don't I?
So that means what you need to understand is a clear relationship between the mind and awareness. You don't have to let go. Suppose you understand that the color belongs to what? All the different objects that Shantala showed, and glass is already free. You don't need to give up all these colors. Because why? The colors have never touched glass. That is knowledge. If you are trying to free the glass from pinkness and blueness, you are stuck. You are stuck because you are trying to you start with an ignorance that the glass is blue, and then you are frantically trying to clean it. So this is why the ignorance is in the mind, and the knowledge also takes place in the mind. Okay? Now, the teaching is very intricate because the teaching cannot use unknown words to you. They have to use known words, and known words have limited meaning. Now, I have to use those limited meanings, but at the same time, remove the limitation from these words to take you to something which already is. So that's why the teacher has to be skillful. If the teacher doesn't know what they are doing, you will be confused. So this is why there is a very sophisticated methodology. This methodology of leading in Sanskrit is called prakriya. Prakriya. Very, very important. Certain methods are used to get your mind to see this reality which already is. Methodology. But the prakriya is translated as methodology. the common methodology that is used in many different prakriya, many different methodologies are used. One common methodology which is used, now you are very advanced and you know all the answers are to give you some technical things, otherwise you'll say, what is she? She just told everything what we already knew. So I have to take your thing to a little next level. So you say, okay, I still have to know some things. Okay. So there is a one prakriya which is called, what we call Anvaya Vratireka. Have you heard of this prakriya methodology? It's called good, thank God. Something that you haven't heard of. Good. So, Anvaya Vratireka methodology. Okay. Anvaya Vyatireka methodology is used very, very consciously for this avoiding this paradox that you are stuck with an identity which is limited, and you are stuck with a limited mind, and that limited mind has to figure out what that which has no limits. Big problem, right? Paradox. So therefore, how do you take yourself? What is a clever methodology to what? Make you see something which already is, using your mind which is changing. And that is what we call Anvaya Vyatireka. What? Okay. So, what is, so one is changing and the other one is non-changing. What? I am sad. In order to know this I am sad, do you have to be there or not? Yes. Please don't think for so long. So that means I am there, right? And in order to know I am sad, what is the first condition? I have to be there to come to know what? I am sad. Now, this I am sad is gone. I am jealous. In order for this I am jealous to be known, what has to be there? I am there. So that means I am jealous is gone. I love this person because we are needy of love. I love this person. In order to know that I love this person, what is the first condition? I am there. What is Vyatireka is all of these, please understand, for all of these to happen, you need this. Without this, none of it can happen. But in order for this to be there, do you need any of this? No. Anvaya Vyatireka methodology. Logic. You have to use logic. This is truth. It's not just somebody is just like that. So that means in order to know these things you need this, but for this you don't need anything else. This is what we call sophisticated methodology, where Vedanta becomes uncontentionable. If you really want to understand, if you really are open, if your commitment is to the truth and not to your own thinking, you cannot contradict it. So therefore, these are what we call, and we have hundreds of different methodologies like that to make you see that, so that you can't miss this truth about yourself. And what a beautiful methodology which leads you from this miserable self-identity to which identity? I am the whole. Who doesn't want it? Tell me. Anybody in their right mind, who doesn't want this teaching? from this struggling human being to seeing as clear as daylight with no logic which can contradict that I am wholeness, I am full, I lack nothing, I have no attributes. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't get it. Why there's only one awareness or one consciousness?
Okay, very good. Wonderful. Yeah. See, this is not, you are very right. It may seem as though, okay, break time. Savior. Savior for me. Okay, good. He saved my life. Okay. But we will come back. And all of you will also have opportunity to answer her question. Okay? So it's not only my responsibility. Okay, now, Purnamidam. Wait. Narayana, Purnamada.
Really? But I'm there anywhere. Even if I'm
Okay. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.